In this episode, we're going to explore the answer to the question, Taunije pune lindamenge pe pange shapekakya ekwatamenge. How was Myaamia Ribbonwork lost? As we already discussed, in the 1800s, our community was heavily affected by forced removals, land loss, and the fragmentation of our community into diaspora. In this same period of time, state and local municipalities began to illegally tax our land, and many of our community homes were lost. Some community members resisted this in the courts and sought to fight the illegal taking of their land. Some community members were forced to leave their homes and traveled across the United States to find work. No matter the choice, much of our community ended up in a state of grave poverty in this period. And into that environment of poverty and loss, at the end of the 1800s and the beginning of the 1900s, into that environment came collectors who were looking to buy artifacts from Native people like our community who they perceived to be a vanishing race who would no longer exist anymore. And they wanted to preserve our objects in museums for future generations. Because of grave poverty, much of our community didn't have a choice but to sell these precious objects. And so by the middle of the 20th century, most of the ribbon work in our community had passed out of our hands and into the hands of private and public collections. These Mtemsa Atasema, these women's leggings, are unique in this collection because we have no record of what family made them or who they were purchased from. They beautifully highlight the combination of colors that creates a checkerboard effect, which you can see in other examples of Myaamia ribbon work. Leggings would have been worn by attaching a small loop at the top of each legging, attaching a tie to that, and it would then tie to a belt that the woman would wear. These leggings are really short. They run from the knees down, and then they would have been combined with a wrap skirt that would have been worn from the waist down below the knees, and moccasins. And they all would have been tied together like you see in this image of Unzajnikwa. They all have similar patterns. They create this effect running from the feet all the way up to the belt line, and could also, as we've said before, be combined with silverwork to really emphasize Wawasinakwake, this shimmering effect that ribbon work and silverwork created together when worn in a beautiful ensemble like you see here with Unzajnikwa. In this photo of Wa Pinakekapwa Nehe Ewe Mikowache, Gabriel Godfrey and his family, you can see them proudly displaying many objects of ribbon work. This photo was taken on the porch of their family home just outside Peru, Indiana, around 1897. At the center of the shot, you can see many ribbon-worked objects, a couple of which have the same color distribution that produces the checkerboard effect, just like you saw in the leggings we just looked at. But you can also see a blouse all the way on the left, covered with silver brooches, small silver brooches, and a large silver brooch in the middle. This again highlights the way in which silverwork was combined with ribbon work to produce Wawasinakwake shimmering. Sadly, because of the endemic poverty that Wapinakakapwa's family suffered, all of these objects were sold by the family and taken into private or public collections over the 10 years or so that followed this photo. These 2 pages of notes from Mark Raymond Harrington highlight this process of collection whereby Myaamia ribbon work as well as other objects of Myaamia culture were extracted from our community in the late 1800s and early 20th century. These 2 pages of notes were actually taken down in 1910 as Harrington was visiting among Myaamia in Indiana to purchase objects from them. If you look closely, you can see in 1926D, he's purchasing objects from William Pakanga, the same gentleman who produced the bag we looked at in the episode on discovering. And in line D, you can see that Harrington is noting he bought 1 pair of Ribbonwork moccasin tops, the flaps that are attached to moccasins. And he actually includes the phrase, moccasinal kane. And then he noted he paid $12 for the whole lot of objects from William Pakanga, from Chingwenza. Also on this list, you can see him purchasing objects from Susanna Pope, which include women's leggings that have Ribbonwork on them as well. And you can see that he paid $44 for the whole lot of objects from Susanna Pope. These archival pages highlight this process of loss, whereby cultural objects were extracted from the community, but they also include sometimes precious information that is included nowhere else, like the names for some of these objects. Some of these words are not recorded in any other linguistic document. So they're a bittersweet tool for us to use. They are information for us to use in revitalization, but they also highlight the loss that makes that revitalization necessary.